Welcome to the Curiosity Crisis. We challenge ourselves to explore the world of business, tech, investing, and science. Get curious and be part of our journey as we discuss, challenge, and learn. Welcome to the show.
Loki, how you going?
Good, thanks. Welcome back from overseas, back to the land of the free.
Yeah. No, it's good to be back, and it's good to be back recording. So this is yours and our first episode of the year. So pretty excited to get into it.
Yeah, it should be good. You know, it's been a while since we've done this, so I'm sure there's a lot of things keeping you curious. But would you like to start us off with what it is that's keeping you curious at the moment?
Well, funny you ask, Luke. I actually reckon we skipped this segment this episode, and I know it's our thing, but the reason is the whole episode is about what is keeping us curious, and that's specifically about habits. So we talk a lot about habits just generally off air, and we thought we'd do an episode about it, basically talking about the habits that we love and that really serve us well individually, and then ones that we're looking to work on and build. So that's a pretty good way to talk about what we're curious.
Do you want to kick us off then?
Yeah, well, straight into it. Okay, well, we've talked a little bit about investing on the podcast, and one of the habits that really serves me is investing consistently aligned with the profit first principle. So basically, the profit first principle, I think it applies more to business and accounting and stuff like that, but it's very translatable to building a habit of investing, in that when you get paid, for example, or you earn money through your business or whatever, you set aside an allotment that is just going to get invested, because essentially it's a opposing idea to, you know, paying all your bills and your expenses and everything that you need to keep operating first, and then either getting to save or reinvest the stuff that's left over, because that mindset often leads to having less saved or less invested. So it's literally just putting aside money that you will invest and then making the rest of your operating expenditure work for your life or your business or whatever. So yeah, I just do that every paycheck. So then every 2 paychecks, basically once a month, I'll invest a set amount every single month. And I've been doing it for, I don't know, 2-3 years now. And it's awesome. There is ways you can automate it, but I enjoy the process. So it's just been a really good, simple muscle to build.
So you're just choosing a subset of your post-tax pay, and then that is like an untouchable amount that you're always doing something with that's aimed at investing. Is that the right?
Yeah, absolutely. So that way, I just consistently putting some aside for it, even before it's just part of when the pay comes in, a set allotment goes towards investing, and then that's just the rest, goes towards things like groceries and whatever else.
Yeah, okay. Oh, nice. And have you found it useful? Or have you ever found it where you're like, oh, actually, I wish that I didn't have that going out this month or whatever?
No, because I think it's just like absolutely built into now my habits when I get paid and how I manage my finances and stuff like that. And I think it's a really good way for people to just actually get into investing, because I think a lot of people will look at it and be like, oh, what's the point? I've only got like a few $100. But if you do this, at least you're getting in and doing it frequently enough, or at least building an amount frequently enough so you actually get to a sizable amount, rather than just being like, oh, I can never do it, and never really getting started. So yeah, it might be better to invest all at one go with a big amount, but that's just not practical for some people. So I think this really is a good enabler.
Okay. Oh, nice.
What about you? What's your first?
I'm going to kind of cheat here and combine 2 things, which is like around reading.
Yep.
So I kind of have 2. The first is it's reading before bed. So it's something that I did for a while and I stopped and then I did again. But I've been really consistent probably the last couple of years now with it. And I just find it's just the best way to wind down before bed. It helps with your sleep, and we'll get into sleep a bit later. But yeah, I've just found like reading, it's just so good. And what I found is actually reading fiction novels, just because it kind of gets you excited to like you kind of like want to go to bed because you're like, oh, that's the opportunity that I get to read my novel. Like I don't necessarily read it heaps outside of that. And because what I used to do is if I read nonfiction, if I was reading something really dry, it would make me want to not go to bed. And I already have a habit of being a bit of a night owl. And so I won't I'll just stay up and just avoid going to bed because I'm like, then I have to read my dry novel, which I don't really feel like reading right now. And then Yeah, I have this system where I read like 2 or 3 books at the same time, sometimes actually up to 4.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it sounds really crazy because you're like, you shouldn't split your focus, but they really are like different pillars. Like my bedtime reading book is going to be like a fiction book, and then I might have 2 different books for learning, right? Like some for book related to maybe like work, or then like something that's outside of like software engineering, maybe something more general or whatever it is. So I'll be reading like multiple books at the same time. Maybe like one's a biography, one's like, hard sciences, and then one's like a fiction book.
Yeah.
And so then my last thing, I guess, is that I also have a reading principle, which is that one thing is that I don't feel I have to finish every book that I read.
Okay.
And I think some people think it's kind of crazy, is like if you start a book, you should finish it. But a lot of the time, and it's not meant to sound arrogant or anything, but sometimes you're reading a book and you feel like you've already extracted all the value out of it that you can. You might be halfway and you're like, you know what? I understand what the author's trying to say here. Like, I get it. I don't need to keep reading. Like, I get what they're saying. I've just, like, read enough examples throughout this book. It mainly applies to nonfiction. Well, it only applies to nonfiction. But yeah, it's just like you don't, and especially if it's a book that you're not feeling like you're getting any value out of, don't read it. It's fine. Like, or skim. Skimming's fine as well. Like, especially if there's a good table of contents, you see what there is and you skip through some of the content, or you just read the chapters that are most interesting to you. And like, sure, if you do that, you're going to miss out on some things. But I just think overall, those things have helped me heaps in like reading a lot and then reading things that I want to and get the most value out of.
Yeah, really interesting. Well, I'm going to skip my reading one later, because reading is an absolute muscle that I'm trying to build for different reasons. We'll talk about that later, I think. But that's really interesting because I've heard the same. I actually probably got it from you as well. But I'm trying to build that reading muscle and learning to love and enjoy reading by reading fiction right before bed. I think I suggested it also by multiple people, but just enjoying that and enjoying fiction and getting like looking forward to reading, and then I'm going to start bringing in, like you said, the non-fictions and the stuff that I'm trying to learn as well, because I think prior to this I was just trying to learn from reading and get something out of it, but it's more about enjoying it as well.
Because that's kind of like a mindset, when you're like, I feel like learning something right now. That's like a feeling that happens. And sometimes you just don't feel like that, especially at the end of the day when you're going to bed. I definitely think it helps. But anyway, let's move on to the next one. What have you got?
This other one, I think I talked about it really early in the podcast once, but journaling. So it's just it's a really good way to just track where you're at and articulating, what's on your mind, how you're feeling, and stopping and being alone with your thoughts is really important. I know you have thoughts about that too, but I think when you do sit down with it, you also have to reflect on where you're at, what you're thinking, your response to things, and writing it out and being completely wholly honest to yourself, because it's literally only you that's reading it. But it's a really good tool to just kind of check in and regulate maybe yourself and just like be like, okay, what's really up? Like, I'm writing this out. Is this, fair? Is it like actually impactful? Does it really matter? And like, it's a really cool way to do that. And it's a good habit to do. I don't do it very stupidly often. Once a week is the aim, and it's easy. I just carve out like 30 or 45 minutes, usually early-ish one morning. And I found it a really good way to just regulate thoughts, emotions, even test some ideas, writing them out in my head and conceptualize, where I'm at and what I'm going towards. Because I think we'll talk about how we think about goals and stuff like that, but one of the ways I think about it is in themes. Like, what is the overarching theme that I'm trying to work towards with these set of goals? And it's a really good way to reflect on those like themes or thematics generally. So I love it.
And do you use like a specific book, or because I know that sometimes when people journal, they're like, oh, this is my setup, like I have like this pen and this book, it's like a Moleskine, or it's like I have these sections written out. Like, do you have any like kind of tips or tricks that you've learned?
No, not really. I just use a notebook and a variety of pens, nothing specific. And I sometimes write in different locations, but it's like a very intentional sit down to do it. And I always start by where I'm writing it. So whether it's in the park or at the beach or at home or, somewhere at a cafe in the city or something like that, I start with that. And it's like this is the time that I've set for it. So nothing too specific.
Okay, no, that's cool. Well, mine's pretty similar to that, actually. So I don't journal. I have never really journaled. It's not really something that I've done, and it might stem from my terrible handwriting. I don't really know why I don't, but I just it's not something that I've been particularly attracted to. But I guess my next habit is be alone with your thoughts, which is kind of something like you just said, where you're sitting down and being really conscious about it. I have something similar where I don't journal, but I think that a lot of people are afraid of being completely alone with their thoughts, and I think it's incredibly useful. I think it's so good. And I think it might be daunting at first, but when you do it more and more, you actually understand yourself a bit better. And the habit that I've built is that every now and then, not regularly, I kind of just know when I have a feeling, I will do something with nothing around. So whether that's like I'll eat and I'll just eat. I won't look at my phone. I won't have a TV show on. I won't read a book. I won't have anything. I'll just be eating. Or I'll drive somewhere. And I won't play any music, won't have any podcasts, won't be talking to anyone, just be sitting and just driving. Or, it doesn't work for everyone, but if you're into running, try running with no music. Just go for a run. Even it doesn't have to be long. It's like a 5K. Because I think often you just kind of work through things. And I mean, I'm sure the science of it is, it's letting your brain process all the stuff that it goes through. We have such consumption in our lives that, it just gives it time. But I just find that, it just helps me settle my thoughts. Sometimes it's not useful. Sometimes you'll do it and you won't think of anything that's gone throughout your week. You'll think of something really specific and, you feel like it's not useful at all. But even that is like, you go down this kind of like this rabbit hole of thoughts, and it's kind of fun. I don't know. I think it's really good.
No, I can see that as well. And it doesn't take away, your attention isn't being taken away by anything else, really.
Yeah.
You're allowed to just follow trains of thought and muse and daydream and or be very specific and think about something directly. I don't think I intentionally do it, but I often run with no headphones, nothing, and just whether it is you're getting something out of it or your subconscious is just processing things, and then later on you arrive at a good idea or you settle on something, and maybe it actually happened during the run, but I don't think there's any harm in doing that at all. It's actually really good, especially because I don't know, I'm sure you're the same or many people are the same. When you're there with your phone, let alone anything else like watching TV or listening to a podcast or whatever, it's just very easy to be busy on it. It's very easy to pop from one app to the other, one social media to the other, or check this, or I don't know, log into one app or track something on your Garmin app. It's very easy to just always be have your attention taken by something at all times. So
yeah, exactly.
Carving out time. I like that. I really do.
Yeah, I definitely think being intentional about it. You choose when to do it. All right, what's your next one?
Well, I think we both love just keeping fit. And I think one of the best things that I took out of that Atomic Habits book I read a while ago was that having something or your habits as part of your identity, I guess, and just believing in it. So for me, believing that I'm an athlete or just someone that's fit, that loves keeping fit and active, I think one of my life goals is always just to be functional and ready to do the adventures that I love doing, whether that's climbing or hiking or in the ocean. So aligned with that just because I believe in that and that's what I want to be able to do, and those are always the end goal. Often I'm training for something. For example, climbing goals right now are keeping me training pretty hard. Last year was a marathon. But otherwise, I just love just keeping fit, by doing something every day, whether it's a proper workout or even just going down to the beach for a quick swim, or trying to hit your 10,000 steps by, skipping one of your trains on the way home or something. I don't know what the key takeaway is, but just for me, it's believing that fitness is important to my quality of life and making sure that I'm ready for the adventures. So that way I am somebody that keeps fit. So I'll always find a way. And it helps me also explore things that I enjoy to do physically, whether it's it is swimming or climbing or running or going for a longer walk or doing a workout. It keeps it fresh, and I know I get a lot out of it. So I always do it. And I just love that belief. So I think it's just something that's been inherent in my life for a long time, but I'm noticing its value and I really appreciate it.
Just a quick intermission. Thanks so much for listening. If we could just ask a quick favor, if you could send this to a friend and recommend it, we would greatly appreciate it. It's easy to do and it helps the show out. Thanks. Yeah, it's kind of like you see yourself as I want to be someone who is physically fit, for example. So it's like pushes you to then go and do that because that's the way that you see the person that you want to be.
Yes. What about you? What have you got? A couple more?
Yeah, it's kind of similar to that. Mine is that like everything is linked.
Okay.
So like physical, mental, spiritual, whatever extent you believe in that. But it's just that, so like similar to like how you want to constantly exercising, like often I've found that, if you're like mentally you're feeling you're not doing so well, like going for a run or something can really have a huge effect on like how you're feeling. Or if you feel like you're getting sick all the time, like maybe it's because of stress or maybe it's because of, and so I just feel like so much of it's linked. And so I guess mine is that, it's kind of like the best way of imagining it is like the waterfall model in like, as the top one fills up, it like flows down onto the next one. It flows down onto the next one. So it's not like they fix each other, but they definitely have an effect. And so like my system for that is to like regularly do things for each of them. So like, being alone with your thoughts, I think is like a really good thing to do. Or like, so for exercise, what I used to do is like, as soon as I would get home from work, I would put on my exercise clothes. Like irrelevant of how long I was going to work out for, how like good or bad I felt. I would just always put it on and I'd be like, okay, I'm just going to start something. And if I start doing it and 30 seconds in, I'm like, no, I can't do it. Then it's like, no worries. Okay, I'll do it tomorrow. But then what I would find is I'd do 30 seconds, 60 seconds. And then I'd be like, yeah, no, I'm not that bad. I'll do like a workout for, 20 minutes or something. And so you end up like compounding it really regularly. And then that makes you feel much better. And so everything ends up being linked. And so I guess like my habit, my takeaway is like, try and look after all the things just a little bit, and it'll help them all.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting. It's very, very similar to the last one, which is it's essentially just you believe in that. So like you believe in all of the little things, not in isolation. Like you're not just reading before bed because it helps you sleep or because it helps your reading habit, or you're not just running to build up your endurance so you can do a marathon. You know that they have trickle-on effects to the other, and just keeping that belief keeps you motivated and keeps you on the train of doing it. And I think that's really, really important, just to like have that conceptualization in your head.
Definitely. Yeah. What's your next one?
This is the last of just the habits that serve us really well for me. And it's kind of random and kind of aside from everything else, but I always, in the morning when I have a shower, end it with 1 minute of cold. Just like full cold, whether it's summer or winter. And I think it's kind of interesting, but it does a few things. It sets up the morning in that it wakes you up a little bit. It shocks the body. I don't know about the genuine health benefits or whatever, but it shocks the body. It just like zaps you, and it provides a little bit of discomfort first thing. Now I get used to it and sometimes even look forward to it in summer, but then when it gets to winter, it's the last thing I want to do. But it just like, it gets you through that, and like you get out and you realize pretty quickly it's all right. You dry up, you warm up, and like it'll be fine. And I think it's just a little reminder in your day that, not everything's going to go perfectly right, but you'll be okay. And you get through that, and you've already like ticked off something. You've already like gotten through something that's uncomfortable. So I think it's just it's a cool way to wake up, to zap yourself up in the morning, give you a bit of energy, shock your body, and get through a little bit of discomfort. So everything's a little bit more relative.
I actually love that. I used to really look forward to, I grew up in a pretty cold part of Australia, and I liked going outside in winter in like just a t-shirt, because it was kind of fun. Your skin would get cold, but you know that you're like fine because you'd go back in the house and it was warm. And I think it's good. I read this book called The Comfort Crisis, and talks about how we're always in air conditioning and we're always like the perfect temperature and everything's, and it's like kind of nice the idea of like forcing yourself just to experience just a little bit of discomfort. You don't have to, but it's cool.
Gets you breathing, gets you like just alive, a bit awake, and you get back inside and you're like, wow, I just found 3 like units of energy that I didn't have before.
Yeah. It also works way faster than a coffee. Yeah, so my last one is something that I've kind of chipped away at for like ever now. I think it was like since I was a kid, which is keep perspective. Okay. Which is I remember when I was a kid, and I remember there'd be people freaking out about, our math exam or something. And I was like, it doesn't like matter. Like, it's fine. Just do your best when you're in there. It's because, it's that the opportunity to do the best that you can. But then, like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And I remember thinking that all the time, like, it doesn't really matter. And it's because I'd just be like, in a few years' time, I'm not even going to remember sitting that exam. And it was true. I don't know why I thought that. I don't know whether someone had said it to me. I don't know why. But whatever it was, it just stuck with me. And, like, I think I kept it for so long. Like, through uni, it was the same thing. It was like, it's just one assignment. Like, you always work your hardest on it, but it's like, just keep perspective. It's not going to determine everything that happens to you. If you fail an exam, it doesn't mean that your entire life is ruined. Like, it's just, it's fine. Yeah. And I think I do it with a lot, and it helps. I think it helps feel like grounded, but also like it's just a really good habit. Like when something goes wrong, it's a really good habit to be like, all right, like zoom out as far as you can. And you're like, all right. Like let's just really like look at the perspective here and just make sure we're looking at the big picture. Like it should be, things are fine.
Yeah, that's actually so interesting. It's like very important to remember. Like there's a couple of things that stick out to me, but like it's something that everyone could probably do better at, to be honest. And I know I can for sure. Sometimes in the moment I'll be like, oh, like everything's happening, but you take a step back, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time, but then you realize. And there's two things I try to remember is that like, which is very aligned to pretty much what you said, which is at the end of the day, like a one-liner is, if it doesn't matter in a year, it doesn't matter now.
Yeah.
And like, honestly, like, a math test doesn't matter in a year. No, it doesn't matter now. So like, it's not the be all and end all. And then the last one is like, perspective is the lens that you look through life on. So maybe the way I see it is more just about like looking at the positive of things rather than only fixating on the negative or the big challenge in front of you. But I think how you're maybe suggesting it is more like about how material is everything. Am I overdoing this? Am I overthinking this sort of thing?
Yeah, kind of like, especially when like things go wrong. But like an example that I wrote down as well is like, keep perspective on all the things that, like the good things that happen to you too. So like, for example, we've discussed, on the podcast that I own a lot of cryptocurrency and like that can be worth really like a lot of money. And, it's important it's like, okay, well, like take a step back, Luke, don't be greedy. Like you gotta imagine here that this isn't going to add that much value to your life overall, right? Like, if anything, it's going to detract you because you're going to then focus on the wealth that you now have that you're trying to protect, right? So it's actually a distraction. So it's like always zooming out and be like, well, okay, hold on. And it's kind of helps me keep a level head, I think.
That's really interesting. I'm going to have a think about that, and I'll chat to you about that again later at some time. But yeah, I think it's a really important thing to remember. So I love it. I didn't know that was one of your habits. So love to hear it. So in the last little bit, let's talk about the habits that we want to get better at and why. So like, what is something that you actively look at and say, I'm not that good at it, but I know that a good habit in that area would serve me well?
Do you want to go first?
Yes, well, I've only got really one to go on right now because we've already talked about the reading. But yeah, so I was talking about themes before. One of my overall themes right now is sort of slowing down and working on my sleep. And to do that, I've identified that meditation or mindfulness would really help. So I'm really keen to just like, take chunks out of the day, slow down, sort of do nothing. Obviously, when you're meditating, you are effectively doing something by concentrating and, exercising equanimity and being like kind of peaceful and right there. But, taking that time out to just take time out and helping slowing down and helping hopefully get a bit more of that perspective that all hopefully feeds into just being a little bit more calmer with a quieter mind when you go to sleep. So to do that this year, the goal is to, well, at least in the first 2 months, is to do 50 meditations, which is, and I'm using Calm, which is just one of the meditation apps. There's tons out there.
They have such a clean UI.
It's really nice. And they've got heaps on there, and they're targeted. So I'm using some of the guided meditations, but also going through courses, which is learning about meditations. And I know there's a lot out there, but I've just found picking one and sticking to it, and it's been a good one so far, has been really, really epic. And in terms of the outcome and like how it's feeding into life, I think it's a really gradual thing. So I'm just going to stick with it. I do feel really good after each one. but I'm keen to see how it feeds across into life generally. So loving it. But yeah, that's one that I'm working on. I really want to build the habit of because I think it has a lot of flow-ons into life.
Ours are really similar for this,
Yes.
like what we want to improve upon. So yeah, I have sleep as well.
Okay.
It's something that I've always been bad at. I was like notorious at uni for staying awake for multiple days on end. It's something I've always been really bad at. I find it really easy to stay awake.
Yeah.
So I have really low REM levels for my sleep. Like I tried tracking it for like a few weeks. And I mean, we can talk about how accurate, sleep tracking is and whatever. But the point is that I don't think I'm sleeping as well as I should be able to.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it comes down to the consistency of the time that I go to bed. And so one, I want to bring that forward because one of the other ones that I have is I want to get up earlier, but I want it to be the same all the time. And I think that will help me a lot.
Yes.
So that's definitely one that I have. Yeah.
Yeah, mate, I'm exactly the same. That's part of the theme of working on sleep is like aligning those sleep and wake up times and trying to be a bit more consistent of it. So that's really interesting. What's your last one?
Yeah, my other one is also mindfulness. And there's like a couple things there. I mean, one is that I want to have like a really clear image of like the person that I'm capable of being. So like in all the areas that I'm like trying to work on. And something for my 2025 goals and systems that I wrote out, I had at the top, be intentional about life.
Yep.
In that I just don't want to like do things on autopilot. Like I want to be really intentional with my time and the people that I spend that time with and what I work on. And like, it's okay to waste time. Like it's fine.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too caught up on things. I just want to make sure I'm intentional. Like generally, even if it's all the little things, I don't have to, I don't want to be an over optimizer of everything. But I just want to make sure that I'm being conscious of the things I'm doing.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I really love that. That's I mean, I love intentional and like I talk about intentional travel and stuff like that a little bit. But yeah, even about the big things, it's just like big things or little things, like how you spend your time, how you spend your days is how you spend, I guess, your life. So
Definitely.
Cool. That's a bloody good way to finish as well, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, huge. Well, what are you most excited about, like the habits that you have and the ones that you're building? Like, what are you going to get out of them?
I'm really excited about my systems for this year with like what I'm going to try and build upon. Yeah, I've already like been working on sleep, which is going better, I think, and getting up early has been going better. So, I'm pretty excited to build up these habits before winter as well, when we lose daylight.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty important. So that's me. What about you? What are you most excited about?
Just seeing sort of how it all comes together. Like the theme is like slow down a little bit, just take it easy, and hopefully it flows into sleep. And I'm actually really curious to see what meditation does, because I'm enjoying the habit so far. I'm enjoying spending that 10-15 minutes a day doing it, and I just want to like take a stock take after like 6 months of doing it and being like, okay, what does it feel like, what's changed, and hopefully some of the other habits that I already do that I'll keep building on, like journaling and stuff like that, will help sort of check in on that. So really interesting. Maybe we should check in at the middle of the year.
Yeah, we'll have to do an update and we'll see how we're going. Maybe we've changed some because they weren't working.
Yeah, true. That'd be interesting.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I hope people got a bit of value out of this.
Oh, 100%. I mean, like I know I did.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's just like it's a really interesting thing to talk about.
Definitely.
Anyway, I think that'll wrap us up for this session. So thanks for listening. Find us at curiositycrisis.com and Curiosity Crisis on Instagram. We're on all major streaming services, so you can listen how you like. Just asking you a favor, if you got anything out of this, share it with a friend. Maybe you learned a new habit. Maybe you got a suggestion for us, so get in touch. Your recommendations are always worth a lot. But with that, thank you, and catch you at the next episode.
Thank you.